Brightness long ago. Red Iron Door. The first commission undertaken by the Master of the Koboldi, the Overseer of the College of Engineering, created with the assistance and in honour of the Eternal Adamant, was a door of red iron. Designed by the Koboldi, the door will seal Lorenzo's deep pockets, the northern sinkhole, preventing the teeming, swarming Trigoni that infest those lower levels from pouring out and devastating Hanmark, Upwold, Temeshwar and Miaran. The door was completed after the winter solstice, but the Master chose not to install it immediately. The door needs to be positioned as far underground as possible, and the deeper one goes into the tunnels beneath the mine workings overseen by the Delver of the Depths, the more dangerous it becomes, and the more doughty adventurers are required to keep the Koboldi safe. Adventurers prepared to risk being dismembered by angry Trigoni for little more than the experience, and a few sacks full of treasure, of course. When they first warned the Empire of the threat posed by the sinkhole, the Koboldi suggested that the danger would peak sometime around the end of the year. During the summer solstice, however, the Master of the Koboldi declared their intention to see the door installed before the autumn equinox. A call went out to heroes of the Empire to help put the magical seal into place. The priests of Wintermark had already declared the endeavour to be heroic. During the summer solstice, the voices of the Navarre Assembly and those of the Assembly of Dawn likewise urged their people to take part in the expedition into the depths of the sinkhole. As the weather in the world above turned to tempest and storm, the putative adventurers gather in the area around the sinkhole. The Koboldi are responsible for the transportation of the Red Iron Door, as well as its installation. The massive structure is less a door, and more a mighty seal of metal engraved with dozens of tiny runes.
The hard bit will be stopping the vast swarm of Trigoni from gobbling us all up before we can find the right spot to install it,
as the Koboldi put it. There is a secondary goal here as well. To get the full benefit of installing the seal, the tunnels above it will need to be cleared of Trigoni swarms. It will be little comfort to the people of the neighbouring territories if there are sufficient monsters left unsealed to be able to destroy their mines and their mana sites after all. In the end, 170 independent captains bring their warbands to Lorenzo's deep pockets to help get the door to the bottom of the pit, to the great vertical shaft that disappears into the bowels of the earth. There are even 2 units of shadowy warriors sheathed in magic, raised from the darkness beneath the trees of Wintermark and the Marches, welcome additions to the expedition, but the Koboldi give them a wide berth nonetheless. The heroes of the Empire create a cordon of steel around the Koboldi and their mystic seal, and then the grand expedition descends into the tunnels of the sinkhole. The adventurers easily penetrate the natural caverns beneath the sinkhole. Few Trigoni are encountered at this level, and those that do attack are easily dealt with. The caves and tunnels are swept clean of threats, and the wealth of the Delver of the Depths secured before the expedition pushes down, deeper into the earth. Like worms in the earth. Leaving the natural tunnels, the adventurers enter the Turuniel mine workings. These are the first properly worked tunnels they encounter, and this is also where the first major engagements with the Trigoni begin. It seems that the Koboldi may have underestimated just how many of the creatures there were in the recesses below Lorenzo's deep pockets. Among the familiar human-sized creatures with stone-cutting claws, there are a few encounters with things that have never been seen before. They seemed to be Trigoni, but they are nearly twice the size of the normal version, and twice as ferocious. The presence of magic items seems to drive these beasts into a frenzy, and the Red Iron Door attracts them like flies to a dead dog. These Trigoni hulks aren't common, but their massive claws tear through armour and shatter shields, weapons, and stone with equal ease. The Turuniel mines are also unstable. Time, water, and Trigoni have worn away at the walls and supports, so that some galleries and tunnels are on the verge of collapse. The torrential rain currently besetting the Empire makes traversing this area even more difficult. Water is flowing in places it has not reached before, and there is also a threat of sudden flooding as the magical storms rage above ground. Despite all these dangers, there is still a chance to explore and recover some relics of the past. The Navarre in particular are able to find several hitherto undiscovered chambers that provide some insight into what exactly the Turunio were doing so far under the ground on the edge of Miaran. Halls far from the sun. Below the Turunio mind workings lie the ancient tunnels. While the rain has caused streams and rivers to cascade through some of the halls, here they are much sturdier than those of the Turunio mine workings. Indeed, the rune-carved walls seem to resist the claws of the Trigoni as well. These tunnels and galleries are built on a much larger scale than the other areas the adventurers have encountered, as if they are intended for creatures larger than the tallest human. This is a mixed blessing. While it allows warbands to maneuver more freely, it also allows many more Trigoni to attack at once, and attack they do. There are even more beasts here than in the Turunio mind workings, and many more of the Trigoni hulks are encountered as well. In addition to the Trigoni, however, there are additional threats down at this depth. In a few cases, warbands encounter unfamiliar creatures that seem to be living constructions of weirwood, peculiar ceramic and mithril. Most of these entities are much larger than a human, and equipped with horrific shattering hammers and scything blades. They lay into adventurers and Trigoni with equal dispassion. Attempts to communicate with them are unsuccessful, and prove to be very difficult to destroy. In the end, it just becomes easier to mark their locations and try to avoid these galleries and tunnels as much as possible. There are also unliving spirits down here, shadowy figures with glowing eyes that emerge suddenly from the darkness, passing through adventuring bands and sapping their strength from them before returning to rake at the living with freezing claws. They rarely attack for more than a few moments before disappearing into the shadows again, but those subject to their depredations find themselves weakened and fatigued and at risk of becoming easy prey for the Trigoni. Then there are the magical traps. Some of the runes carved into the wall appear to be imbued with malign enchantments that greatly amplify their effectiveness and attack anyone who gets too close to them. The winterfolk among the adventurers agree that while some of these are legitimate traps, intentionally created to manifest dangerous magics, others are coincidental or accidental. Among the worst are the Morrig runes, which, when combined with Veris and Hermok, and linked by bands of Ilium and Mithril, can unleash thundering detonations that not only fling anyone nearby against the walls, floor and ceiling with crushing force, but also serve as a dinner gong for the Trigoni, who come rushing toward the source of the noise. There are more insidious traps, areas warded with Kirop that sap the strength of human, orc and Trigoni alike, or places where the rune of ending causes debilitating curses that make the life essence flicker like a guttering candle. This section of the underworld is so much more extensive than the tunnels above, and some of the explorers believe that the passages and chambers extend far beyond Lorenzo's deep pockets, towards the mountains of Hanmark. The general consensus among the winterfolk is that these are all signs of troll workings, but some of the best preserved and most extensive ever encountered. A maze of twisted passages, all alike. Finally, the expedition fights its way down into the Trigoni burrows and encounter an apparently limitless number of frenzied, magic-hungry beasts. In addition to the typical Trigoni and the Trigoni hulks, there are creatures that defy easy classification. They all seem to be Trigoni, but some possess terrible powers of their own. One particular breed seems to have relatively weak claws, but it is able to release booming exhaltations of force that not only repel their enemies, but attract nearby Trigoni. Another breed, smaller than the others, has venomous raking claws that cause living flesh to momentarily take on the properties of soft stone, completely immobilizing their target, but leaving them horrifically aware of everything happening around them. Most who encounter this venom recover quickly, but in a few cases there are horrible lingering effects that see the body slowly hardening into immobile stone. Luckily, the physics among the adventurers are able to treat this sickness with marrowwort and imperial roseweald, but some adventurers come dangerously close to being transformed into living statues, suffocating as a vice of stone closes around their lungs. The fighting at this level is almost non-stop. There seems to be no end to the Trigoni, and no end to the variations. Just as an adventurer assumes they have seen everything the unspeakable depths have to throw at them, word comes of some new horror. A slow-moving Trigoni that makes stone and earth run like mud, slowing and trapping bands of adventurers, so the swarm can outmaneuver them. Aquatic Trigoni that seethe and boil from lakes and waterways, using their submarine mobility to outflank the air-breathing invaders by squirming through narrow, water-filled tunnels. A terrible, gangly Trigoni beast with a single eye that unleashes bursts of agonizing light so bright that it stuns anyone exposed to it. In the end, though, there are so many brave adventurers that the Red Iron Door reaches the very bottom of the tunnels beneath the sinkhole. Here the Trigoni are like a sea of claws and mandibles, a limitless tide that seems to have no end. The great shaft, the vertical tunnel that drops down, down, down into the earth, is reached in a massive vaulted cavern so far beneath the surface that even the idea of open skies and fresh air seems like a distant memory. As the Koboldi struggle to get the seal into place, something else begins to rise up the shaft, something immense, a Trigoni of such overwhelming size that the mere sight of it threatens to turn the bowels of the most courageous adventurer to water. The roar of the thing's approach mixes with the chittering of the Trigoni hordes and the high-pitched piping squeals of the Koboldi as they hurry to place the seal over the top of the shaft. At the last possible moment, the slab of metal is dropped into place, and the Koboldi do whatever it is they need to do to activate it. The runes on its surface begin to glow with a pale crimson light that casts dancing shadows all around. There is a single, high-pitched musical note, like a single harp string being plucked, and the Trigoni scatter. They flee back into their dark burrows. A ragged cheer goes up from the assembled heroes. The Trigoni are not gone. They and any number of other horrors still remain in the deep places beneath the sinkhole, but the threat of a great host of them rising up to attack the surface is gone for good. The Koboldi announce that there is probably time for a little bit of rest, and maybe even a celebration, before the arduous trek back to the surface can begin. In the manner of their kind, they actually begin to raise stone tables from the raw rock of the cavern, breaking out metal flasks of strong liquor that they have apparently carried with them all the way from the surface. There, in the light of the glowing seal, and illuminated by light stones and oil lamps, a makeshift banquet is held. It doesn't last long. The Trigoni are already beginning to creep back, but it is a chance for everyone to catch their breath, to share stories of their exploits so far, and to prepare themselves to return to the surface. Those who fought their way down here are likely never to forget it, the deepest feast ever held in the Empire. Game information. The expedition into the depths is a resounding success. The threat of the Trigoni is decisively dealt with. Over the next few weeks, the Koboldi share the principles behind their warding door with anyone who wishes to learn, meaning that similar seals can be installed in mines and manor sites across the Empire, greatly reducing the threat of the Trigoni. The Delver of the Depths will benefit greatly from access to the lower tunnels. The Civil Service are preparing details of opportunities to allow them to harvest orichalcum, mithril and crystal mana from the deeper regions beneath the sinkhole. Being a complete success, the expedition also secures significant treasure for those who took part. In addition to the expected rewards, every unit that took part receives 3 ingots each of orichalcum, welt silver and tempest jade, and 2 crystal mana. A shared bounty of 20 wains of mithril is also discovered, distributed at random among all of those who took part in the expedition. 10 units at random will also receive a ring of ilium, recovered from somewhere in the Trigoni burrows. These rewards have been greatly increased thanks to the recklessly adventurous inspiration of the Knights of Dawn who took part in the expedition. A new independent action called Explore the Depths is now available to military units from Wintermark, the League, the Marches, Navarre and Dawn, allowing them to explore the tunnels and recover metals and crystal mana instead of the normal production. Other nations' military units can also take this action, but they will do so much less effectively. With the support of the Navarre Assembly, and thanks to the expedition reaching the Tarunial mine workings, a short report about what the ancestors of Navarre were doing here has been prepared, and will be delivered to the advisor on the Valorn. Likewise, the Winterfolk have benefited from the opportunity to explore the ancient tunnels. When the Runegrot Runeforge is completed, there will be additional opportunities relating to it, gleaned from the runic secrets teased from the ruins of the past. Finally, the glorious troubadours, knights, and yeofolk of Dawn have thrown their support behind this adventure into the deepest depths of the earth. Even though they do not border the sinkhole, they can take the Explore the Depths action as freely as the Marchers or Winterfolk can. Design note. Profound Decisions will not be providing any additional information about the mysteries of the underworld beyond what is delivered to the advisor on the Valorn or used in the Rungot Runeforge. Such things are mysteries for a reason. The Department of Historical Research has already sent an expedition into the tunnels under the sinkhole, and there is no possibility that they might find anything further if ordered back there. You are free to speculate about the strange mysteries of the deeps as much as you like. The Explore the Depths action won't provide additional briefing material. It's an opportunity to get specific rewards for independent action, and to create role-playing opportunities as you boast about your dungeon delving, not a way to dig into ancient secrets. There might be new plots involving Lorenzo's deep pockets in the future, but for now, the threat presented by the site has been dealt with, and there is nothing further that can be discovered here by any means, which includes ritual scrying or speaking to Eternals. Participation. Obviously, if your military unit or forest took part in the expedition to the depths, you are free to make up heroic stories of your encounters with the Dragoni, their twisted, deep earth cousins, and the tricks and traps you have encountered deep beneath the earth. Even though there was an overwhelming force of Imperial heroes assigned to the action, it was still an arduous odyssey into places entirely alien to the Empire, and there were a lot of Dragoni, enough to devastate the regions around the sinkhole if they had poured out, and seriously threaten an entire territory if it had not been sealed away. This adventure is available for 4 to 6 adventurers of level 5 to 10.